takes a village to raise a child. So we did have a good village, so to speak, wherever we would go. And I thought I was okay until I was not okay. You may think that the difficult boss, the difficult teacher, or impossible person that has been very harsh on you was a bad person. But they were a bad person for maybe a reason, because they didn't have the right upbringing. So I think comparison is one of the sad outcomes of where we are today. And it's even emphasized when you have grown up in a home without a father, without a mother, or stability. Unless you are healed, you won't heal others. There's a catchphrase we say, healed hearts, heal hearts, which is the opposite of hurt people, hurt people. So we don't want hurt people to hurt more people. We want more healed people to heal people. As you said, my name is Mireille Karera, and I am an African by birth, and I was born to Rwandan parents as a refugee in southern part of the country. Like the history of Rwanda, you all know that many were born as refugees because of the past that started in the 1950s, and we know that it all culminated into the sad, tragic situation in the 1994 with the genocide against the Tutsis. So my story started in diaspora in the South, but I lived in many countries in Africa before I had an opportunity to live in Europe, where I studied, moved to Europe when I was 18, and really most of my first adulthood years was in Europe. So I lived about 15 years in Europe in different countries, and later on was asked through my work to be relocated to the Middle East. So I was based in Dubai, in the Middle East, covering a lot of countries for about 5.5 years, working for a multinational. And at some point in 2014, I returned to the continent of Africa through in Johannesburg, where I was seconded, and Nairobi in Kenya. And that was around 2014. So remember, I left at 18, I was in 94, around about the time where there were tragic massacres in Rwanda in 94. So that's where we moved to Europe. So 20 years I spent in the diaspora, working for multiple international organizations until I realized that it's time for me to return to Africa. It's time for me to reconnect with the continent. And when I returned, this time I was an entrepreneur. It's a very long journey. I don't want to go into in details, but the reason why I returned to Africa is because when I left as a teenager, I guess even as 18, you're still in your teen, as a young adult, I really valued the whole global experience that I had, but I never really connected with Africa as an adult. So throughout the whole journey, I realized that there's a purpose for me, and that purpose for me was through coaching. So I became a coach, mentor, recruiter, trainer for different organizations. And then at some point I realized I can do it for myself. So that was that. But when deciding, it's a very long story, but when deciding to where I would live, whether I would live in Rwanda or I would live in another African country, because I'd lived in 4 African countries before, it was a little bit of a struggle, particularly with my line of work in coaching. So coaching was not very well known in Rwanda. So many people told me, well, are you sure you want to leave Dubai to come to Rwanda? What is coaching? So people may not understand that they need coaching. And in fact, that was the case. That was the case where it took a long time for us to educate the market that coaching was needed. And if you sought a life coach. There was no issue with you mentally. You were okay. You just needed someone to talk to help you get through perhaps some issues, some challenges, or when it comes to executive coaching or business coaching, it was a matter of just really having like a fitness trainer, you have a fitness coach. It's the same with the life coach, with an executive coach. So it was a little bit of a long journey, but then we saw an opportunity for us as a Karera Coaching and Business Academy to actually start an academy, because there was no, I would say, supply of local coaches. So we would import coaches from neighboring countries, from Europe, other nations, but there was no industry of coaching. There were no, I would say, made in Rwanda coaches at the golden standard of those countries where we would import from. So that's why we saw it was a mandate for us to start the academy, and fast forward from 15, that's where we officially launched the company. And now we are in 2025. We have seen incredible progress. We have graduated and accredited international coaches that not only serve the local market, but they're now exported. They go abroad and train and coach other African CEOs, African leaders, young Africans, and not so African, also international. Our academy, we accredit and certify people in Europe, in Canada, America, China, in southern part of Africa. So I guess that we are somewhere. We're not exactly where we need to be compared to, let's say, the Eastern African economies. You know, with the history of our nation that I alluded to earlier, when people are displaced, meaning they're leaving their countries, they leave their homes, whether as refugees or because of geopolitical issues such as war, famine, or pandemic, whatever the issue may be, there is a fabric of a society that is impacted. And the fabric of the society starts at home with the father and the mother. So that was my story, my father's story, when he found himself as a teenager in an East African country around 1959. So his father was here in Rwanda, working for the last king of Rwanda, and at that time, it was still the colonial times. So they would send, I would imagine, children to Belgian schools. So my father found himself in a boarding school abroad, and he never returned. He never returned. His father, who stayed in the southern province of Ruhango, where they are from, and closer to the king's palace in Nyanza, his father, my grandfather, was killed around I guess it was 1961. So there, my father became fatherless as a teenager in a foreign country. Then he became a refugee. Then somehow went into a camp, a refugee camp, like many Rwandan found themselves as refugees in camps. So we are talking about the second generation in the 60s, and then I was born. I came along in 1976, also as a refugee because of where Rwanda was, and we know the history. So that will be the third generation, if I can call it that way, of individuals that are impacted by displacement. So long story short, when you don't have a solid foundation of a father figure and a mother in a home, it is very difficult for you to find your way around life. So I would imagine that was the story with my father when he had the chance to become a father. I'm the fourth child and the last one. So somehow my parents are separated, and they lived in different countries, so which is one of the reasons why I lived in so many countries. I guess there are blessings to that, but at the same time, there are effects of that, which is the genesis, the reason why I wrote the book, because yes, on the one hand, we would live with our father in one country, but on the other hand, we will spend a few years with our mother in another country. So it will be either here or there, but I really don't have an experience of living with both parents in one home, because they separated when I was, I think, 3 or 4. And here is the thing, Linda. The thing is that I have been blessed to be loved by both of them and the wider family. So the thing about Africans is that we always have like people around us, like the village, as they call it, the community is. So it takes a village to raise a child. So we did have a good village, so to speak, wherever we would go. And I thought I was okay until I was not okay. The key word here is hidden trauma. And in other words, it is unconscious trauma. So you don't realize that you have it, but it's somewhere affecting you and goes with you from childhood all the way till you're in a boardroom and snapping at people. You are angry and all of those things. But it's not the CEO or the chairman or chairwoman in the boardroom actually shouting. It is the little boy, it is the little girl that never had to actually find out, wait a second, why am I this way? It's probably because I never had a father who appreciated me, who told me, wow, well done, good job for doing A, B, C, D. And in the book, I go through some of the common cases of hidden trauma, but also effects of fatherlessness that are globally well known. And some of them are very personal. Some of them I certainly know that I experienced that. But of course, as a coach, I coach many people in different spheres. I've had the chance to talk to people who told us about those. So, for example, because it's a 30 days self-coaching book, there's basically a topic for each day. And those 30 topics, the first 17 topics are the most commonly well-known effects of fatherlessness. So I can perhaps just quickly share with you, since the question was about how I realized the hidden one. It could be, for example, if I look at day 2, it could be fugitive. You're an emotional fugitive, meaning that you don't talk about emotions. You hide from emotions, perhaps because it will bring out some things that make you feel uncomfortable. When you want to express some kind of emotion, you kind of block it. Why? Perhaps because you put a wall up to protect yourself. So people who have been hurt at a very young age, they tend to kind of be distant because they don't want to be hurt again. So whatever internal, some people call it internal oath, like, when you go and swear. So you have sworn to yourself that it will never happen to me again. I won't trust again. Therefore, we block emotions. So with relationships, there is an issue there in terms of avoiding perhaps certain topics. But also when it comes to relationships, maybe we can flow with that. Some recurring relationships or patterns are very much well known. Unless you heal, you may repeat the same cycle until you uproot whatever the hurt was when you were young. Another thing I know is very common. We have just finished, you mentioned the first launch, international launch in Nigeria, 32 days ago. So we just finished the first cohort of people who went through 30 days of the mentoring program, which was made possible by our partners at Africa Re. Foundation in Nigeria. We went through the program with mentors and mentees in Nigeria, and there are two common themes that we saw, which I'm sure it's the same in Rwanda. It's the same in America. Actually, in the United States of America, that is where globally they have the highest rate of fatherless homes, particularly among the African American population. That it's almost like an epidemic for generations, sadly. So in Nigeria, where I can give you tangible fact of how this book has helped people, it is on two specific issues. One that is on overperformance. Overperformance to overcompensate. So you kind of push yourself too hard until because you want to prove something to yourself or prove something to your father or someone who did something to you in the past, that you can do something, you will become someone. So that is one of the topics on day 3. Here in the book, the chapter is called Female Alpha, but it can be male alpha. So that alpha A type or type A kind of person will want to, excel and go over and above, sometimes to the point of collapsing, overworking yourself. And that was one of my effects when I was in Dubai. I tell a story how I collapsed on a plane. After multiple trips, intercontinental flights, after meetings in, Dubai, in Nigeria, in Ghana, over 5 days, at some point my body said, enough, collapse on a plane. And there's so many men and women that would definitely identify. So the book is there to give you rest, so that you actually discover, why do you work so hard? Success is great. We all want to be successful, but measured, not to the point of, forcing yourself to exceed your capacity. So female alpha, male alpha could be one of the syndromes, I imagine, of a performance to overcompensate. Another one is unforgiveness. We saw that the chapter on day 5, with the first cohort we went through the program, my goodness, it was incredible, because we had mature men, mature women, young men, young women that went through the program in Nigeria. And they told us that they finally released their fathers. They finally are forgiven, yes, for not being present or for leaving their mothers or ignoring them or not providing. There's so many reasons why we can have unforgiveness in our heart. And some of them actually translated it into the business environment, the professional part. Because this book, yes, it talks about fathers, but it's about mental health. It's about you, the holistic person, how it affects you. So, and some of the testimonies we heard during the program was that there was one person who could see his former boss in it, a former boss who overdrove them to exhaustion, who was really difficult to deal with. They could see their boss there, and they released him, and they could understand now why people behave that way. So I would imagine your view was as well, you may think that the difficult boss, the difficult teacher, or impossible person that has been very harsh on you was a bad person. But they were a bad person for maybe a reason, because they didn't have the right upbringing. So you get to understand people a little bit better and have more compassion towards their behavior as well as your own behavior. So there are so many key indicators. I think drug abuse is one of the key elements of effective fatherlessness. Teen pregnancies, I mentioned that. Also mentioning the story of my parent, because yes, there's a story in there that resonates with that. But worldwide, teen pregnancies, drug abuse, crime, thefts, even corruption. I know in Rwanda we fight corruption a lot, but we talk about why some people may want to steal from others or act in that particular aspect. It's probably because they see that something is owed to them, that entitlement, and they do it in the wrong way. So in the book, we talk about the root cause to some extent, but it's not the only root cause. Of course, it could be cultural, it could be multi-generational, etc. So actually, the book, if I can say, the book is my victory lap, meaning that is my trophy that I did it. So you cannot write about something that you yourself have not gone through. So you only give what you have. So if you don't have it, you can't give it. So around that time when I left my previous employment in 2014, that's really where I went through my own healing journey as a coach, as a life coach, and of course, executive coach. So in the book, I talk about that powerful moment of transformation or awakening moment where I was in another country in a seminar. And that's where I realized I had an issue with performance or overperformance. I was being challenged by a coach in a seminar to think about who validated me as a child. What I found out is that actually there was an episode that came to mind when I was 6 years old, coming from school. I don't want to tell the whole story because they have to go and get the book, where I was coming from school. And I had been the best in my class in terms of the grades, etc. And I did get some reward from my father. He congratulated me. But my 6-year-old didn't like the comment from the teacher. And guess what? I'm a teacher now. I'm a trainer, but which is interesting because what the teacher wrote then, yes, congratulating, but the teacher said that she's easily distracted. Like, I'm a dreamer, which is true, I'm a dreamer. But that 6-year-old young person has not let go of that comment up until that time in 2014, and I was 38 then in 2014. That's when the coach challenged us in the class, and particularly me. He pointed at me. He was like, who validated you? Like, even the intensity of that really shook me. And I was like, yes, that was that. And literally, I started crying, Linda. I started crying in a room filled with 100+ people. And then that's where the healing started. But then it was gradual. You mentioned that in the East African culture, you don't talk about these things. It's touchy. I also hesitated to write a lot of those things because people would have said, well, you're not honoring your father, you're not honoring your mother, it's disrespectful. All of those things, which I do understand where they come from, but there is nothing in the book that is dishonoring. In fact, it is honoring the memory of my wonderful father that didn't get a chance to have a father fully. And it feels like it's like a full circle to some extent, because I get to write about him, his father, but also helping others. So it's only in 2023 that I started talking about it, and we started the initiative on Father's Day. So every Father's Day, we now do events. We call it From Trauma to Triumph. So we always talk about, yes, the importance of fatherhood, but at the same time, educating on the effects of fatherlessness. So yes, the book does talk a lot about the effects of fatherlessness, but we also teach men how they are very much important to be great fathers, so that people won't have to go through what I went through, or many in Africa and around the world that are going through. There's a lot I can say about that. There's something you just mentioned about identity, and nowadays when you look at social media, there are so many studies around social media. When you look at Instagram, for example, with the Gen Zs, and it's not just the Gen Zs, even grown up, when you scroll through and see people's filtered faces and life, nobody actually posts something when they are sad. It's always when everything looks perfect. So you think their life is good, my life is bad, so there's something wrong with me. So you compare yourself. I think comparison is one of the sad outcomes of where we are today. And it's even emphasized when you have grown up in a home without a father, without a mother, or stability. You can have uncles around you, you can have father figures, or a community that supports you, and that's okay. You can live with that. But when you scroll through social media or in social circles, you may want to feel insecure. You may want to feel that there is something wrong with you, or you are less than. And that is the worst thing to think about yourself. So the remedy, one of the remedies is, of course, to go through the 30 days. So what we offer in the book is a sort of evaluation. When you go through step by step, there are self-coaching elements each day. So each day you read about a certain topic that is specific for, if you have that trauma or don't know you have it. It is hidden, it's unconscious. So there is all of that. So you are educated, but also there is a page where within 30 minutes, 30 days. Why 30 days? Because 30 days has been seen as a crucial moment, crucial time where you can actually intensively reset your mind. You can be, like you do a 30-day diet, or you do in Ramadan, for example. Ramadan in Islam, it's one of the 30 days they do for reset, spiritual discipline, physical discipline. So 30 in the book, we talk about that at the beginning, that it's a key time for renewal, transformation. But it's not just in Ramadan, but any Judeo-Christian faith, be it, Islam, Judeo, like now in Israel, 30 days is also very important spiritually for renewal, and of course, Christianity, etc. But in finance as well. So there's something about the cycle of 30 days. For example, in our daily lives, when you work, between your salary today and your next salary, is how many days? 30 usually. So it is a time where you get to redeem your time, you reclaim your identity by going through this systematic 30 days approach. So what I would say to your viewers is that since we are doing this video at a particular important point in our calendar, we are in December. So usually people will want to find a way to become better in January. So in the professional coaching world, we know that in January, people want to actually evaluate, how did I close 2025? What do I want to achieve in 2026? So we definitely recommend that as you examine, you take stock of your December, your last year, that you also think about your mental health. Have you been stigmatized? Have you what is your behavior? So we do the performance evaluation at work, right? Whether you have met your KPIs, your key performance indicators, in terms of quarterly, monthly, yearly, half yearly, but do we take time to do it for our own minds or our own hearts? Because it affects how we live. It affects people we do life with, friends, colleagues, clients, partners, etc. So I definitely would recommend that people really utilize the festive season, when there will be a lot of holidays, to just check in with themselves. In the book, I think it's on day 9. On day 9, actually day 8. Let me give you a very good example. Day 8 is an example we all know of. It's public. Day 9, I talk about 2 cases, male executives, female executives, because the book is gender balanced. So the issue is not a male issue, it's not a female issue. Fathers are fathers of boys and girls, so it affects us all. So on day 8, I talk about the whole book. Each chapter starts with the letter F, like father. So each chapter starts with the letter F. On day 8, he talks about furious, and the day 9, he talks about forcefulness. So the leadership example I would give is a case of a leader that was born to a mother who was the 4th wife to his father. And that boy didn't get love from his father because his father had the same issue he had. So his father had an issue with his own father, meaning that boy's grandfather, because, of multiple wives, and also around that time, it was very difficult economically. So he became very angry, hence the title Furious. And anger is one of the key indicators where people, they don't know how to interpret whatever goes inside from the young age. So that particular leader was so angry, so furious, that he was gifted, talented, an excellent orator and influencer. When he had the chance to lead at a national level, he transformed his nation, not in the positive way, because of that hidden trauma, until he led that particular nation to go into world war. And I'm talking about Adolf Hitler. That's the story of how, if you don't heal, if you don't understand your drivers, it can actually create incredible ramifications that will not only impact your friends, your community, but nation and the nations, because we were all, I guess, the nation globally, we were impacted by World War II. So when we were doing a research on the effects of that, Hitler was one of the incredible materials that we found that really cement the fact that unless that child is given love and care from a community, it can escalate to that magnitude of, world war. I mean, that's an extreme. But of course, on a daily level, we know of other similar instances. So we offer on day 8 that you introspect your temper, you introspect where does it come from, what causes you to kind of boil up. In my case, I know because I'm very enthusiastic, I'm very, highly energetic, but I know I have to work on that even now. So life is ongoing. Even now, I know I have to work on, yes, enthusiastic, yes, up there, but in intensive situation, how do I work on not impacting others? And that's something as leaders we always have to be aware of. On day 9, I talk about the attitude of a particular executive person who was a woman who went through similar issues, was rejected by her father, literally rejected. And that keyword rejection causes one of the deepest wounds in a human being's life. You feel like your life is not worth living. So when that particular executive grew up, got married, got divorced, went through, a lot of challenges. But in her leadership style, in some of the case studies we heard about is that she would literally have fits with people, younger ones, clients, like there was no peace around this particular person. And there was a pattern of moving different places, clients, locations, countries, all different things. So that could be one of the patterns when you notice that maybe your relationships don't last long. What could be the cause? Are you always the victim? If you have that victim mentality, it may be something that you need to introspect. Why is everyone else wrong, but I'm the only one who's right? So that could be one of the things I offer. It's not easy, but it's worth doing your introspection. They say in counseling that the first step to healing is to acknowledge that you have a problem. That's step 1. Acknowledge you have a problem. Step 2 is ask for help. Ask for help. Step 3 is commit. Commit to helping. Step 4, seek accountability. And by doing that in the Rwandan context, what I have seen, and I have to give credit to where Rwanda is right now, because there's a lot of effort in educating on mental health, which was not the case before COVID. I guess one of the sad and positive side effects of COVID is that people are now able to talk. So we no longer stigmatize about that. So we talk about mental health issues. Even in the corporate space, there are programs in the corporate space where you bring in a coach, you bring in a counselor, you have programs to help your staff go through these things. So it's a little bit more common now than it was before. So that means there are a lot more people that are able to share about whatever issues they have. So in the last 3 years, we've been doing this program for Father's Day. We bring in mentors and mentees from the leadership circle in Rwanda, so corporates, public, private sector, where we actually ask them to spend 2 to 3 hours with us and the youth as well. So we bring in mentees, whether it's from the University of Rwanda or from other programs, so that there is that discourse, there is that discussion between the younger ones and also the mature ones. So we no longer have to hide. We no longer have to think that, oh, well, it's not an issue, So there is improvement, but we're not there yet. It may be the case in Kigali, but I would wish for that to be the case in other places, in rural areas or outside of Rwanda as well, where, there are more conversations around, personally, how did 1994 affect me, or 1959 affect me, as it was in my case? I know we do that during Kwibuka month, right, in April. There are conversations that are taking place specifically at the national level, but I would wish for that to now be something that we get to do more often. And we need programs like this. We need, the new times of this world to really have programs where people can talk, a platform where people can actually talk to a professional coach or go through even 30 days of, understanding what's the issue so you can help others. Unless you are healed, you won't heal others. There's a catchphrase we say, healed hearts, heal hearts, which is the opposite of hurt people, hurt people. So we don't want hurt people to hurt more people. We want more healed people to heal people. Yes, I mean, we are all the sum of the collective, right? We're all individual parts, which is a sum of all. So if I am not well, it will affect your family, it will affect the community, financially, mutual, the insurance sector will be impacted, hospitals, because if it gets to a point where you're not well, eventually you become sick, so meaning it will affect people around you. So it is important that you understand, you mentioned a moment ago that in a workplace, maybe individuals who are very quiet, they are, yes, introverted, but maybe there's a reason why they maybe there's something. If we were equipped to know how to talk to people or have weekly or monthly programs in the workplace to really talk, to be seen, to be heard, I would imagine that there will be more engagement in the workplace. There will also be more retention. People will want to feel that they belong because, we want to go to work where after sitting in traffic, you are in a place where you enjoy working with people. So there is a need for, yes, programs, but also in the community, in quartiers, we call it. I would like for imidugudu, for sectors and all of those to have regular programs, maybe around Umuganda or something like that, where we get to listen to each other. Or so we understand that, yes, some of the people who actually do petty thefts, that steal, why are they stealing? Or some who are not contributing financially, what is the cause of that? Maybe they feel they don't belong. Maybe they are rebelling against something, which is one of the causes of fatherlessness, is to feel that nobody owes you anything. You don't belong. People don't, you don't owe anything to anyone, yet we all are the sum of a collective approach. So I guess the remedy is self-awareness, raising awareness around how you feel, how it impacts your immediate environment, including work, including the community where you are. But if there are negative effects, then where do they come from and how can we heal from that? But equally, since we talked a lot about negativity, let's also talk about positivity, because you can learn from the past, from mistakes, but you can also learn from role models. I think we need more of the father figures. Maybe that's the more emphasis we need to give, and the book is giving, is to equip men, to equip women to be the role models to those young people, even not so young, that never had that chance. So I think we need more role models. We need people that really can write a book and say, this was my story, this is what I went through, let me show you how you can do it. So that, I think, for Rwanda particularly, it may create a rapid transformation if we have more people tell the stories. And God knows we have so many stories that can be told, that can be the source of redemption. I like the word you used at the beginning. Was it reclaiming?
Yeah, reclaiming.
Yeah, you can reclaim your identity, and one of the ways is to talk. I talked about the first step to healing, which was to admit you have a problem. The second was ask for help. The third is really commit. But fast forward to the last step. The last step to healing in counseling is tell your story. So that's why I wrote the book, because that was my victory lap. As much as, yes, at the beginning we want to be invited to speak, but you are powerful as a person. You can create. You are a creator of your own destiny. You can stand, you can go kumurenge, I don't know where, and you ask for it. Because as a citizen, as a resident, you have something to give. Once you know your identity as a contributor, not a consumer, then you know that you are one of the 14 million people in the country that certainly can add value to the many other programs. Because if you wait for others to do it, you will wait and wait and wait until, you will say you are left behind. So if you don't have a platform, create it, and people will come and join you. When we were framing the program, yes, it's a book, it's about a story, but we initially thought I would tell my story, which is great. But the novel became a workbook, meaning it's now a program for mentoring. So over and above being educated, telling stories and research, this has to be practical. This has to be something that after 30 days, that issue is no longer yours. That issue, you pass on the book and you have someone else. So where we see ourselves, hopefully in less than a decade, the program is designed as a campaign. It's a campaign where we would wish to have 1,000 people to start with, healed, transformed, and those 1,000 people can mentor others. So Rwanda, Nigeria, so far are the 2 host cities. We would wish to have 1,000 in 10 host cities to start with. So beyond those 2 nations, we are inviting partners in Kenya, in the UK, which is also a huge issue in the UK, in the US, in Africa, meaning Cote d'Ivoire. We are also engaging other people there where we can have our own solutions. One of the things I like about where Africa is right now is the fact that the African Union has a 2063 agenda, doesn't it? And one of the aspirations, I believe they have 7 aspirations. One of the aspirations is aspiration 6 that speaks to this particular book, is for Africa by 2063 to have been transformed more by Africans. So more people-driven solutions with the focus on women, with the focus on the youth as well. So when we do the 30 days program, whether it's in Nigeria, in Rwanda, Kenya, etc., we want this to be owned by Africans. So African solutions for Africans, but also solutions to the world, because we need to export. As I said, I guess the pattern I see with whatever I do is once you create that solid foundation, you go out there and help others as well. So why can't we have Rwanda-made solutions help the UK, help, in other nations? Australia is also a big issue in Australia, and other many nations. So from Rwanda to the world, we are here to support and find the solutions, because there are fathers and mothers everywhere in the world. There are children, boys, girls that are affected by that, and particularly with divorces that are skyrocketing around the world. It's not just in Rwanda or in Africa. It's the case around the world. If I may just quickly share a brief interesting situation. In the last Father's Day this year in 2025, we organized a speed mentoring session with fathers and the youth, and a panel. The questions we were asked were incredible. Among the Gen Zs, one of the questions they asked us on the panel, they were saying, well, I'm hesitating to get married because I see many people are divorcing. So why should I do that? Why should I have children? So then you wonder where the world is going if there is no such program to educate people around. If it happened to this person, you can heal, but it doesn't have to be your story. You own your story and you live for a sake, which means the purpose. The book is called Forsaken for a Sake. Forsaken meaning abandonment. Usually when a father or a mother leaves, you feel abandoned, you feel forsaken. But the flip side of being forsaken is to find the purpose, which is the sake, the purpose for which perhaps that issue happened to you, and turn it around to work for your good. This is the second book I've written. The first book is a 7-day self-coaching book. It's available on Amazon and in Rwanda as well, in Charisma bookstore. So it's a 7-day on creativity code, to believe that you too can create an industry, or you can be like, the Steve Jobs of this world, or you can be like whoever created M-Pesa, M-Pesa for mobile money. So our neighbors in Kenya, if that one person in Kenya could do it, why not you in Rwanda? Why not you in Senegal? Or why not you in Nigeria or somewhere else? So the 7-day self-coaching really walks people through in 7 days how you can believe that you too are there to add value. So this is the second book on 30 days. So 30 days self-coaching. And the third book, to your question, is coming up very soon, and it's going to be about women. How to be a powerful woman in this world.
We're gonna wait.
There's already a title, there's already a format, but I have to keep it under wrap until next year. So the good news is going to come out next year, in the first half of next year. This particular point in time of the year, with the festive season coming, we call it festive season, but it's not festive for everybody. Many people feel lonely. Many people feel alone when, it's a time to be happy, jolly, tis the season, as they call it. But it's not the season for everyone. When people realize that they don't have a father, a mother, or loved ones around them, what I can say to that person is that if you are alive, if you are hearing me, you are breathing, you are alive, you can turn your life around. You are someone who is here for a purpose. I have been that person where I was born a refugee, where I went to Europe. I was an African. I was a girl working for multinationals, and there were a lot of voices that could tell me, well, you're just a girl in a male-dominated world, you're African, you are black. All of those things that will want to make you feel less than, less valued, they will always be there. That is the bad news. They will always be there. Today you may feel that way for whatever reason, but for now, what I can tell you is that you can overcome. And you know that within you, you can overcome, because there is that voice inside of you that tells you that you have a dream. You can do that. There is that intuitive voice inside of you that may be a little bit still, but if you listen to that voice, my friend, wherever you are, I know you can do it, you can heal. But first step, as we said earlier, admit you have a problem. Do you often feel that you are not appreciated? If so, why? Is it others, or is it maybe a projection on others? Because sometimes you can feel that you are not seen because of what is inside of you, but it may just be a mirror. It may not be the truth. It may just be you projecting on others what is inside of you. So perhaps identify. First of all, identify why do you feel that way. Then second of all, clarify. Clarify why you feel that way. Then rectify. Those 3 steps, if you can do those, identify, clarify, rectify. How you rectify? By changing your own internal narrative, by accepting that you are breathing, you are not less than anyone, you have the same chances as anybody. Yes, your starting point may be really bad, like many of our backgrounds, that is true. But commit today to change it. Commit today to changing your narrative. What happened to your father won't happen to you. As I always say when we do these things with books, it ends with me. It ends with me. What happened to my father, his father won't happen to me, to the person who will read the book. So can I invite you to say, it ends with me? Repeat after me.
Yeah,
it ends with me. So if you decide that you will rectify what was done to you, then you are in good company. Because the message so far is to the child or the person who was growing up. I heard we had in the recent launch in Rwanda, we had an international who is here on a secondment from abroad. So his family is over there, a father. And I love that story because he is physically in Rwanda, but his family is still, back home. But he told something that I would wish to repeat, because he said that even though he's a high-level, high-profile leader here, whenever children call from back home, he picks up the phone. Even if he is in meetings with ministers, high-level individuals, his colleagues, they all know he has a culture to pick up the phone and talk to that child who is there. So the message to the parents, while it is important to, yes, earn a living, because that's a trap. You want to work, and not be present. So the message is find a way digitally nowadays to connect through videos or be present one way or another so that the children see you. Or find a rhythm, and I know nowadays there's a flexible working hours. You can work from home. Many workplaces are adopting that. So that could be maybe finding a rhythm where you could, yes, maybe work a lot, travel, but when you come back home, be intentional about spending time with your children over weekends, or go out of town, because those few years you will be with these little precious people from the age of 1 when they are born until they are 18. I would even say perhaps 15, 16, teenage. It's not a long time, but the investment that you time, yes, treasure, yes, making money, that is the foundation you need. They won't have to go through these things, because if you invest that time today, it is multiplied in a compounded way in the future, because there will be the healed ones that will heal others rather than the hurt ones that will help others. So the message is be present. That is the presence that you can give. So the book is available for the international audience. It's available worldwide on Amazon.com. In Rwanda, it is available in 2 places, Charisma in Kigali Heights, so they can head to Charisma bookstore, but they can also go to our website. I know our team will reach out to them and make it available so that it can be couriered there. Thank you, and also allow me to thank you and thank New Times. I actually like the name New Times. I think one of the programs you have to really interview leaders and authors is a way to create new times, because when you create new times, things change, transformation happens, you change the narratives, and where we are heading with the Vision 2050, I think, and I hope that this conversation really will create new times for people that are following you.